Have you ever wondered what price you would pay for absolute success? What would you sacrifice to never lose again? Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and smash the like icon. Because trust me, you are about to witness one of the most mind-bending tales about ambition, temptation, and the thin line between right and wrong. Let me tell you about Kevin Lomax, a defense attorney from Gainesville, Florida, who has built an extraordinary reputation because he has never lost a single case in his entire career. This perfect record defines him and drives every decision he makes in the courtroom. During one particular trial defending a school teacher named Geddes accused of inappropriate conduct with a minor, something terrible happens that changes everything. While sitting in court watching his client testify, Kevin notices something disturbing about Geddes' behavior that makes him realize with absolute certainty that this man is guilty of the accusations. The reporter covering the trial even approaches Kevin to tell him that a guilty verdict seems inevitable based on the evidence presented. Kevin faces a moment of crisis where he must decide whether to continue defending someone he knows committed these acts or to abandon his perfect record and do what might be morally right. He asks for a brief recess to think about his choice, and when he returns to the courtroom, he decides that winning matters more than anything else. Kevin proceeds to absolutely destroy the credibility of the young victim through aggressive cross-examination tactics that paint her as unreliable and dishonest. He manages to secure another not guilty verdict for Geddes, which maintains his undefeated streak but leaves a dark stain on his conscience that he chooses to ignore. Following this controversial victory, a representative from an extremely prestigious New York law firm called Milton Chadwick Waters approaches Kevin with an incredible opportunity. They offer him substantial money just to assist with jury selection on a single case, which seems like an easy way to make extra income. Kevin travels to New York and successfully helps them win the case through strategic jury selection. The head of the firm, John Milton, played brilliantly as this charismatic and powerful figure offers Kevin a permanent position with a massive salary and a luxurious Manhattan apartment that most people could only dream about. Kevin discusses this opportunity with his wife Mary Ann, who seems excited about the possibility of starting a new life in the big city. However, Kevin's mother Alice, who is a devout evangelical Christian, expresses serious concerns about them moving to New York. She warns Kevin that the city is filled with sin and temptation, comparing it to ancient Babylon and urging him to reject the offer. Despite these warnings, Kevin cannot resist the allure of success and wealth, so he accepts Milton's offer and relocates to Manhattan with Mary Ann, leaving his small-town life behind forever. Kevin immediately begins handling high-profile cases that thrust him into the spotlight of New York's legal elite. His first case involves defending a practitioner of alternative spiritual practices who performed an animal ritual that prosecutors claim broke the law. Kevin cleverly argues that this act is protected under religious freedom laws by drawing comparisons to other established religious practices, and he wins the case, adding another victory to his record. As Kevin becomes increasingly consumed by his work, he spends less and less time with Mary Ann, who begins feeling isolated and lonely in their new environment. The firm assigns Kevin to defend Alexander Cullen, a billionaire businessman accused of ending the lives of his wife and their child. This case demands enormous amounts of Kevin's time and attention, pulling him even further away from his marriage. Kevin starts having inappropriate thoughts about an attractive colleague named Christabella Andreoli, who works at the firm and seems to appear everywhere he goes. Meanwhile, Mary Ann's mental state begins deteriorating rapidly as she claims to see demonic figures surrounding her in their apartment and at social events. She experiences a horrifying nightmare involving disturbing imagery that terrifies her and makes her question their decision to move to New York. When doctors examine Mary Ann, they deliver devastating news that she cannot have children, which crushes her dreams of starting a family. Mary Ann desperately begs Kevin to leave New York and return to their simple life in Gainesville, but he refuses to even consider abandoning his thriving career. Milton notices Kevin's distraction and surprisingly suggests that Kevin should step away from the Cullen trial to focus on caring for his struggling wife. However, Kevin admits that he fears he would resent Mary Ann forever if she cost him this important case, so he chooses to continue working instead of helping her. The firm's managing attorney, Eddie Barzoon, becomes increasingly suspicious of Kevin after discovering paperwork that lists Kevin as a partner in the company. Eddie confronts Kevin, believing that Kevin is secretly competing for his position and planning to push him out of the firm. When Kevin denies having any knowledge about these partnership plans, Eddie threatens to expose the firm's questionable business practices to federal investigators. Kevin immediately reports Eddie's threats to Milton, expecting his mentor to be concerned about this potential problem. Instead, Milton responds with strange calmness, sarcastically referring to Eddie as a special creature and showing no worry whatsoever about the threats. That same night, Eddie is attacked and beaten by individuals living on the streets who, according to Marianne, who witnesses the incident, seem to transform into monstrous beings during the assault. This traumatic experience pushes Marianne even deeper into psychological distress as she becomes convinced that supernatural evil surrounds them. While preparing Alexander Cullen's mistress Melissa to provide testimony about his whereabouts during the time of the alleged incidents, Kevin realizes through inconsistencies in her story that she is lying to protect Cullen. This means Kevin now knows with certainty that his client is guilty of these terrible accusations, just like he knew about Getty's in Florida. Kevin shares his concerns with Milton, expecting guidance on how to handle this ethical dilemma. Milton tells Kevin that he will support whatever decision Kevin makes, showing complete faith in him. Once again, Kevin chooses winning over morality and proceeds with Melissa's false testimony, which leads to Cullen being acquitted of all charges. After achieving this victory, Kevin discovers Marianne in a nearby church completely unclothed and covered with numerous injuries on her body. She tells Kevin through tears that Milton attacked and harmed her in unspeakable ways while Kevin was supposedly at work. Kevin struggles to believe this accusation because he clearly remembers seeing Milton in the courtroom with him during the exact time Marianne claims the assault occurred. Convinced that Marianne injured herself during a psychological episode, Kevin makes the heartbreaking decision to have his wife institutionalized in a facility. Around this same time, a federal agent named Mitch Weaver, who has been investigating Milton's firm, approaches Kevin with disturbing information. Weaver warns Kevin that Milton is involved in corrupt and illegal activities and reveals shocking news that Getty's, the schoolteacher Kevin defended in Florida, was recently arrested after a young girl was found deceased in his vehicle. This revelation confirms that Kevin's first questionable decision to defend Getty's, despite knowing his guilt, led directly to another innocent person being harmed. Moments after delivering this information, Weaver is struck by a vehicle and loses his life right in front of Kevin in what appears to be a tragic accident. At Eddie's memorial service, Milton dips his finger into holy water, and the water begins bubbling and boiling in response to his touch, though no one else seems to notice this impossible occurrence. Kevin visits Marianne at the facility, along with his mother Alice and his case manager Pam Garrity, trying to comfort his institutionalized wife. When Pam is alone with Marianne, something terrifying happens as Marianne sees through a mirror that Pam has transformed into a demonic entity. Terrified, Marianne attacks Pam with the mirror and locks herself inside the room, trying to escape from what she perceives as a monster. Kevin frantically attempts to break down the door, while Marianne, in her desperation, takes a sharp piece of broken glass from the shattered mirror. Before Kevin can reach her, Marianne uses the glass to fatally injure herself, ending her own life in a tragic and horrifying way. Before Kevin can even begin processing this devastating loss, Alice pulls him aside and reveals an absolutely shocking truth that John Milton is actually Kevin's biological father. This revelation completely shatters Kevin's understanding of his entire life and his relationship with his mentor. Filled with rage and grief, Kevin rushes to confront Milton about everything that has happened, including Marianne's accusations. Milton admits with disturbing pleasure that he did indeed assault Marianne exactly as she claimed, which confirms that Kevin failed to believe and protect his own wife. Kevin pulls out a firearm and shoots Milton directly in the chest, but the bullets pass through Milton's body without causing any harm or even making him flinch. In this moment, Kevin realizes the impossible truth that Milton is not just his father, but is actually Satan himself, walking the earth in human form. Kevin angrily blames Milton for orchestrating every terrible thing that has happened to him and Marianne. However, Milton calmly explains that he never forced Kevin to make any of his choices, and that he simply created situations while Kevin made his own decisions every single time. Milton points out that Kevin could have walked away at any point, but his ambition and vanity kept him moving forward no matter the cost. Kevin begins to understand that he prioritized winning and success over his wife's well-being, over morality, and over everything that truly mattered. Milton then reveals his ultimate plan, explaining that he wants Kevin to conceive a child with Christabella, who is actually Kevin's half-sister through Milton. This child would become the prophesied bringer of apocalypse, changing the world forever. Milton offers Kevin absolutely anything he could possibly desire, unlimited power, wealth, and success, if he agrees to participate in this plan. Faced with this horrifying choice, and finally understanding the true cost of his ambition, Kevin rejects his connection to Milton and everything he represents. Kevin declares that human beings possess free will and the ability to choose their own path regardless of temptation or manipulation. In an act of ultimate defiance, Kevin turns the weapon on himself, choosing to end his own life rather than serve Milton's dark purpose. This sacrifice completely destroys Milton's carefully constructed plan that has been developing for years. In his fury, Milton's true demonic form emerges as he incinerates Christabella and transforms into a terrifying winged being that resembles Kevin himself before everything goes dark. Suddenly, Kevin jolts awake and finds himself back in the courthouse during the recess of the Gettys trial, the exact moment when he had to decide whether to continue defending his guilty client. Everything that happened in New York, the entire nightmare with Milton and Marianne's tragic end, was somehow reset, giving Kevin a second chance. Marianne is alive and sitting beside him, completely unaware of the future Kevin just experienced. Kevin embraces her with overwhelming relief and makes a completely different choice this time. He stands up in court and announces that he can no longer represent Gettys, despite knowing this decision will likely result in him being disbarred and losing his perfect record. Kevin and Marianne leave the courthouse together, choosing their relationship and morality over his career ambitions. As they walk away, a reporter rushes after them, begging for an interview and promising to make Kevin famous for taking such a principled stand. Marianne encourages Kevin to do the interview, suggesting it might help other lawyers facing similar ethical dilemmas. Kevin somewhat reluctantly agrees to speak with the reporter, and they arrange to meet later. After Kevin and Marianne depart, the reporter stands alone in the courthouse, and his appearance begins shifting and changing. The reporter transforms into Milton, who grins directly at the audience, breaking through the barrier between the film and reality. Milton delivers a chilling final message, stating that vanity is absolutely his favorite sin, suggesting that Kevin's pride in being seen as a moral hero might lead him down the same dark path all over again. This entire journey reveals something profound about human nature and the choices we make when facing temptation. Kevin's story shows how easily we can justify compromising our values when success and recognition are within reach. The film demonstrates that evil doesn't always force us to do wrong, but instead creates circumstances where our own desires lead us astray. Milton never made Kevin defend guilty clients or neglect his wife. Kevin made those choices himself because winning mattered more than anything else. The reset ending suggests that even when we recognize our mistakes and try to make better choices, our fundamental character flaws like vanity and pride might still lead us back to the same destructive patterns. Kevin thought he was making a noble choice by refusing to defend Gettys, but agreeing to the interview shows he still craves recognition and validation. The question becomes whether true change is possible or whether our core nature always resurfaces no matter how many chances we receive. So here's what I want to know from you. Watching right now, if you were in Kevin's position and had to choose between an undefeated career record and doing what you knew was morally right, which would you honestly choose? Would you have the strength to walk away from everything you worked for? Or would ambition win out, just like it did for Kevin? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I genuinely want to know where you stand on this.